Hello everyone, welcome to GDC Classes. So I welcome you all to the Pharma Thunderstorm series where today we are going to discuss regarding the theory based on the topic surfactants. So in the previous video we have already started with our surfactants whereby we have seen the basics of surface tension and interfacial tension. So in this video we are going to talk about our main surfactants. Okay. So I'll let you know first the basics of surfactants, how they behave, and then we are going to list down some important surfactants with their trade names, and they are definitely very important for your exam point of view. Okay, so I'm writing whatever is important. Okay, so try to note it down with me, try to list down all the important points with me. Okay. So first things first, what are these surfactants? Surfactants are nothing but the surface active agents. Now these surface active agents, mark my words, comprise of both hydrophilic as well as lipophilic groups. Okay, these comprise of both hydrophilic as well as lipophilic groups. Now how do they even function? Suppose here we have our liquid, right? This is the air or gas, right? So in this case generally we have this air water interface. Let's suppose we have this air water interface. So once you add these surfactants, they are going to orient somewhat like this. Once you add the surfactant, right, to what? To the air and water interface. Okay. Now surfactants are really known to reduce the surface tension, right? They are known to reduce the surface tension. You added the surfactants, they oriented somewhat like this. Surfactants do have a polar head and a non-polar tail part. This suppose is the polar head part and this is a non-polar tail part. Now the polar and the non-polar part both are very important because ultimately these surfactants are going to orient themselves like micelles. What are these micelles? How they are actually formed, we need to see that. So first things first, the surfactants first orient themselves in such fashion at the air-water interface. Now once you keep on adding this surfactant, you keep on increasing the surfactant concentration. What is going to happen? This is going to reduce the surface tension and bring down the surfactants into the bulk with a specific orientation that forms micelles. So it is safe to say that at a lower surface surfactant concentrations, they were just orienting at the surface. But as soon as you start to increase the surfactant concentration, the surface tension became reduced and they move into the bulk. So this bulk at this stage, at a concentration here, we call it as critical micelle concentration. These surfactants actually form the micelles, right? So surfactants, main important details, they are composed of both hydrophilic and lipophilic groups. They have a polar head part and a non-polar tail part. Generally at a lower surfactant concentration, they just simply orient at the interface. Then as soon as you start to increase the concentration, it will more and more reduce the surface tension and will bring down into the bulk of the medium and then orient themselves in a fashion we call it as micelles at a concentration called as critical micellar concentration. Now these surfactants actually play multiple roles based on their nature, type, etc. So it is also very important for us to see what are the major types of surfactant, what are the major classes in which the surfactants are actually divided. So this is a very simple table in which we can clearly see the surfactants are categorized as cationic surfactant, anionic surfactant, ampholytic surfactant and non-ionic surfactant. Very important, please note it down. Mainly four classes we see: cationic, anionic, ampholytic as well as non-ionic surfactant. So in the cationic part, we have seen that surfactants contains both lipophilic and hydrophilic groups, the polar head part and the non-polar tail part. So basically the polar head part, once it is cationic in nature, that means the cationic part, the positively charged part is present in the molecule. If it is anionic, then the negative charged part is present in the molecule. If it is ampholytic, that means both the charges are present, but definitely they are going to behave with their pH and the ionization, that will again come into play. Last one being the non-ionic, it is suitable that they do not contain any specific charge. So it is very important to remember all the examples you spot here, but I will definitely tell you a trick to remember these. Number one is the cationic surfactant, with the name that it suggests, that the cationic part, suppose I'll draw it somewhat like this, right? So the cationic part is majorly responsible here. Okay, so main important examples are quaternary ammonium compounds. So you must see quaternary ammonium compounds. Which one? Cetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide, which is also known as citramide. Second one is the pyridinium. So these pyridinium compounds, example 𝘂𝙬𝙬𝙬 chloride. Can you spot some similarity? Can you spot some similarity of words? Eums, neums, pyridinium, quaternary ammonium. So these are a great way to remember the cationic surfactants, which includes the names from eums, ammoniums, right? Pyridiniums. So this way you can remember them. Okay, citramide is one such their name which you have to remember. Second one is the anionic surfactants. So anionic surfactants mainly include alkali soaps, right? Anionic surfactant mainly includes these alkali soaps. So questions can be asked directly on this part, that alkali soaps are considered under the anionic surfactants. So simple way to remember the anionic surfactant, you can spot AIDS. Potassium stearate, right? Can you see? Potassium stearate, right? Triethanolamine acetate, sodium lauryl sulfate. These are under the classification of organic sulfate, then organic sulfonate, then sodium cetyl sulfonate, then bile salt sodium glycolate. Although you must give a reading to these examples, it's very important, but definitely for the time being, when you get confused for the MCQs, you can look for these tricks, right? Eums and neums are cationic, 8 that is anionic. And this was asked in the GPAT 2025 also, whereby in the last series we had already discussed just before the exam. This table was very helpful as per the feedback of the students. Okay. Next, we have ampholytic surfactants. Now, these ampholytics are also known as the zwitterionic surfactants. Now, you can see the main example. This you have to remember, lecithin and 𝘂𝙬𝙬𝙬. Okay. Last one we have is the non-ionic surfactant. Now, non-ionic surfactant includes both hydrophilic surfactants and hydrophobic surfactant. Hydrophobic surfactants includes SPANs. Hydrophobic surfactants includes SPANs, which are sorbitan fatty acid esters. Direct question. Sorbitan fatty acid esters. Which are these SPANs? Okay. Polysorbates. Polysorbates means tweens, right? So tweens are polysorbates, hydrophilic. SPANs are sorbitan fatty acid esters in the class of hydrophobics, right? Now tweens and SPANs, they have their own grades also, like tween 20, tween 40, tween 60, tween 80, right? So one simple way to remember these is, I'll write it here. One very simple way to remember these includes LPSO, right? LPSO, right? L is the laureate, P is the palmitate, S is the stearate, and O is the oleate. Okay, so LPSO. So now in this case we have 20 carbon, 40, 60, 80. So it is polysorbate 20, that means polyoxyethylene monolaureate. Polysorbate 40 means polyoxyethylene monopalmitate. Polysorbate 60 means polyoxyethylene monostearate. Polysorbate 80 means polyoxyethylene monooleate. So they can ask you this way also. Okay. So try to remember it as 20, 40, 60, 80. LPSO. Okay, now apart from these important class of surfactants of cationic, anionic, ampholytic as well as the non-ionic surfactants, we have few other examples also. But before that, here is one more simple trick. If I think my video is like hiding out the trick, still I'll read it for you. We have seen LPSO. You can also remember it as little penguins swim out. LPSO, little penguins swim out. This is for both, works for spans and tweens. So this L stands for the laureate, including the grade 20, obviously carbon 20, then span 40, which is the palmitate, then span 60, which is the stearate, and then oleate is span 80. So little penguins swim out, laureate, palmitate, stearate, and oleate. This is very, very important. I am telling you over and over again. This is very, very important. Okay. Similar to spans, we had tweens. Similar to tweens, we have already discussed. So here is, you can all see again, we have L, laureate, P, palmitate, S, stearate, and O is the oleate. LPSO 20, 40, 60 and 80. Similar way, and you can see how many times these questions have been already asked. Okay, so do not forget to note these down. So this is it. Thank you so much. I hope you all have enjoyed watching the video. You got the insights of the topic, and please note them down. These are very, very important. Thank you so much.